Good morning. It's actually a pretty one out there today. Sun's trying its best, finally, after a whole week of that gray Ohio drizzle. I've got the window cracked and my coffee, and I thought I'd sit down and talk to you about something a little tender this morning. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Linda. Pull up a chair. I want to talk about retiring alone, the emotional side of it, the part nobody puts in the brochures or the magazine articles. Because when they show you retirement, it's always a couple, isn't it? Two people on a beach, two people on a porch swing, holding hands, gray and happy. And a whole lot of us aren't that. We're doing this on our own, divorced, like me, or widowed, or never married. And nobody really talks about what that feels like, the emotional part. So I thought somebody ought to. Might as well be me with my coffee on a Tuesday. I'll be honest, I almost didn't make this one. It's a little close to the bone. But I figure if I'm feeling it, somebody out there watching is feeling it too. And maybe it helps to know you're not the only one at the kitchen table by yourself. So let me tell you where I'm coming from so you know I'm not just talking. Bob and I divorced back in 2014. And before anybody worries, Bob's fine, we're fine. We just stopped being married. It wasn't a big dramatic thing. We just looked up one day and realized we'd turned into roommates who didn't have much to say, and we both deserved more than that. So that was that. But here's the thing I didn't plan on. I got divorced at one stage of life, and I retired at another, and nobody told me those two things were going to shake hands and gang up on me. Because retiring alone is a different animal than just living alone. And I want to walk through why, because it surprised me, and maybe it'll help you see yours coming. I'm going to walk you through 4 of the feelings that nobody warns you about. The quiet, the double goodbye, the decisions you make all by yourself, and the couples world that you suddenly find yourself standing outside of. And then, and this is the important part, so stick with me to the end, I'm going to tell you the part that actually surprised me, which is that it gets better, and exactly how. The first thing nobody tells you is about the quiet. When you're working, the quiet doesn't get a chance to settle. You're up, you're out the door, you've got people all day whether you like them or not, and you come home tired and the evening fills itself. Even living alone, the work holds the day up for you. It gives it shape. Then you retire and the shape just falls out of the day. And if there's nobody else in the house, there's nothing to put back in its place. It's just you and the quiet. And the quiet is louder than you'd think. I remember the first real week of retirement, standing in my kitchen at 10 in the morning, and the house was so still I could hear the refrigerator humming. And I thought, oh, this is going to be different than I figured. It's not that I was sad exactly. It's that there was nobody to say good morning to, nobody to ask how I slept, nobody to say, what do you want for dinner? The little nothings that a person says to another person all day, I didn't have those anymore. And you don't realize how much those little nothings were holding you up until they're gone. I'll tell you a funny one. I caught myself talking to the radio one morning, answering it like the fella on the morning show could hear me. And I had a little laugh at myself, but then I thought, no, that's not silly. That's just a person who needs to hear a voice in her own house, including her own. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I bet it isn't. I bet some of you are nodding right now. The second thing is the double goodbye. And this one's particular to us, the ones doing it alone. When a married couple retires, one of them loses the work people, but they come home to their person. They've still got their main one. When you retire alone, you lose the work people and you go home to a house that's already empty. It's 2 losses stacked up, not one. The water cooler and the dinner table, both quiet at the same time. I worked in the billing office at the hospital for a lot of years, and those gals were my daily people. We weren't best friends exactly, but I saw them every single day. We knew each other's business. We knew whose kid was struggling and whose hip was acting up. And when I retired, all of that just ended, and I didn't have a husband at home to fill the gap, the way my married friends did. I had the gap on both ends. Nobody warns you about the both ends part. My friend Patty retired the same year I did, but Patty's got Jim at home, so when her work people fell away, she still had her main person, her built-in somebody. She'd say to me, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel." And she's a dear, but she didn't, not quite. She lost one thing. I lost two at the same time. And there's a loneliness in that gap that you can't really explain to somebody who's never stood in it. The third thing is the decisions. And this one sneaks up on you. When you live with somebody, you don't even notice how many little things you decide together. Should we get the roof looked at? Does this mole look funny to you? Did I leave the stove on? Just little check-ins all day long, this constant having somebody to ask. Retire alone and every single decision is yours. All of them. The big scary ones and the dumb little ones. And there's nobody to say, "That sounds right," or, "I don't know, sleep on it." I had a health scare a couple years back. Turned out to be nothing, thank the Lord. But I sat in that waiting room by myself, and I drove myself home by myself, and there was nobody in the passenger seat to say, "It's going to be okay." I said it to myself, out loud, in the car. And I felt a little silly, but you do what you have to do. What I learned from that day is you've got to build yourself a little bench of people you can lean on, even when they're not your spouse. I called Shelly from the parking lot before I even started the car. And I've got a friend, Marge, who I've made my official person now, the one I call before a big appointment and after. You have to ask for that out loud, which is hard for proud people like me. But asking somebody to be your person, that's not being a burden. Most folks are honored to be asked. I know I would be. That's the one that gets me. Not the big lonely moments, the medium ones, where you just wish there was one other person whose job it was to care how your day went. And it's the good news too, not just the scary news. When something nice happens, when the doctor says it's nothing, when the garden finally comes in, when you get a sweet card from your grandkid, there's nobody right there to turn to and say, "Look at this." You learn to hold your own good news for a minute before you can call somebody. That sounds small. It isn't. Sharing the good is half of what the good is for. The fourth thing is the couples world. And I'll be honest, this one took me a while to even admit. The world is built for two. You notice it the most around the edges, the holidays, the weddings, the dinner invitations. You get invited places and it's all couples, and you're the odd number at the table. Restaurants give you that little look when you say just one. My sister Donna, she's still back in Akron, still married to Ray, bless them both. Donna means well, but she'll say things like, "We should find you somebody," like I'm a problem with a missing piece. And I love her, but I'm not a puzzle. I'm a whole person who happens to set one place at the table. But I won't pretend it doesn't sting sometimes. Sunday afternoons used to be hard. Holidays can still be. There's a particular quiet to a holiday when it's just you and the TV and a turkey breast that's way too big for one. I don't say that for pity. I say it because if you feel it too, I want you to know it's normal. And it's not a sign you did anything wrong. It's just the shape of the thing. What helped me with the holidays was deciding to stop waiting to be invited and start being the one who hosts. Now I'm the one who says, "Come to Linda's." A couple other gals from the coffee group who are on their own, we do our own Thanksgiving now. It's a little different than the picture book version, but you know what? It's warm and it's full, and nobody's quiet at that table. I made the thing I was missing instead of sitting home wishing for it. Now here's where I want to turn the corner, because I didn't make this video to leave you down at the bottom of the well. I made it because I climbed out, and I want to throw you a rope. Here's the truth I found, and it surprised me. Retiring alone is hard. But it is not the same thing as being unhappy. Those are two different things, and I had them tangled up for a long while. Because there's another side to this nobody talks about either. When you retire alone, your time is actually fully your own. Every bit of it. I don't have to check with anybody. I don't have to cook around anybody's schedule or watch anybody's shows or keep the peace over the thermostat. If I want cereal for dinner, that's dinner. If I want to stay up too late reading, nobody sighs at me. I spent a lot of years bending around other people. The truth is, looking back, I'd spent most of my grown life as somebody's wife and somebody's mother and somebody's coworker, always shaped around what other folks needed. And there's a freedom in retiring alone that the couples don't get. And it took me a while to stop grieving long enough to notice I'd been handed it. For the first time since I was a girl, I got to ask a question I'd never really asked. What does Linda actually want her days to look like? Took me 60 some years to get to that question. Better late than never. But the freedom only turns good if you do one thing. You have to go build the people back in, on purpose. Because they don't come automatically anymore, the way they did at work, the way they do for a married couple. You have to choose them and go get them. And I'll be honest, that part felt impossible at first. When you're already feeling low and quiet, the very last thing you want to do is put on real pants and go be friendly with strangers. It feels like too much. I sat in my car outside the library that first Tuesday for a good 10 minutes before I made myself go in. 10 minutes, talking myself into it. But I went in. And that 10 minutes of being uncomfortable bought me a whole circle of people. Best 10 uncomfortable minutes I ever spent. So that's what I did, and I'll tell you exactly how, because the how is the whole point. I joined a coffee group at the library. Tuesday mornings, free, just a bunch of us who show up. Half of them are on their own too, it turns out. I had no idea how many of us there were until I went looking. I started calling Shelly more, my daughter, down in Tampa. Not waiting for her to call me, just calling to say nothing in particular, the way you do with somebody you love. It felt needy at first. It isn't. It's just connection, and connection is allowed, even when you're the one who reaches first. I got into a routine with my neighbors. We keep an eye on each other now. If my kitchen light's not on by a certain hour, Carol next door checks on me, and I do the same for her. That little arrangement settled a fear in me I hadn't even said out loud. The what if something happens and nobody knows fear. A lot of us alone carry that one quietly. Having somebody who'd notice, that's worth more than I can tell you. And I started this little channel, talking to you, which has turned into more company than I ever expected. So if you're watching, you're part of how I'm not alone. I mean that. So here's what I keep coming back to. The emotional side of retiring alone is real, and it's heavier than anyone lets on. And the heaviness is not your fault, and it's not a sign you failed at something. It's just real, and it deserves to be said out loud instead of swallowed. But alone doesn't have to mean lonely. That's the difference I had to learn, and I learned it slow. Alone is just a fact about how many chairs are at your table. Lonely is a feeling, and feelings you can do something about. You can fill a life back up. It takes more work than it does for the couples, I won't lie to you about that. But the life you build on purpose, with people you actually chose, there's something to be said for that. It's yours. You made it. Nobody handed it to you. And here's a little thing that helped me see it. Plenty of married folks are lonelier at their own kitchen table than I am at mine, sitting right across from somebody. Lonely isn't about whether there's a person in the room. It's about whether you feel connected to your life. I know married people who'd trade for what I've got. So don't let anybody, including that voice in your own head, tell you that a table set for one is automatically a sad one. It's only as full as you decide to make it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's all fixed and I never feel that Sunday quiet anymore. I do, sometimes. But it doesn't run the show now. It's just a feeling that visits, and then it goes, and I've got a coffee group on Tuesday and a daughter who picks up the phone and a neighbor who checks my kitchen light. That's a life. That's a real one. And I built it after I thought the building was over. And if you're sitting there this morning at the very beginning of it, in the loud quiet, thinking this is just how it's going to be now, I want you to hear me. That's not the final picture. That's just the first week. I was right where you are. It does not stay that way unless you let it. You've got more say in this than the quiet wants you to believe. So let me ask you something this morning and be honest with me. If you're doing this alone, what's the moment that gets you the most? Is it the quiet mornings or the Sunday afternoons or the having nobody to tell when something good or scary happens? Tell me down in the comments. I read every single one. And here's the thing. There are people in that comment section in the exact same boat, and sometimes you all end up talking to each other, and that, right there, is the whole point of this. You're not as alone as it feels at the kitchen table, I promise you that. If this was a comfort to you, even a little, give it a like. It helps these reach other folks who are sitting in a quiet house this morning thinking they're the only one. And if you know somebody who's on their own, a friend, a sister, somebody who got divorced or lost their husband or just never married, don't only send them this. Call them. Today. Be the person who reaches first. You might be the good thing in somebody's quiet morning. And if you want to keep coming to the table with me, you can subscribe and I'll be here. We'll keep each other company. All right, that's enough from me today. Go call somebody you love and be good to yourselves.